Hello everyone, Neil Tappin here from Golf Monthly and welcome to the London Club and this video in which we're going to answer the question about why the rules of golf seem to be so complicated. Now we produce a lot of rules videos and we get a lot of comments from people saying that when they're starting out playing golf, the rules of golf just seem very complicated and hard to understand. So we're going to look at why they are the way they are. Now before we start, please do leave some comments below. What do you think of the rules of golf? Have you just started playing golf? Have you found them easy enough to understand to be able to get up and running with the game? We'd be really interested to hear your thoughts. But let's head out now onto the golf course here at the London Club and look at why the rules of golf seem to be so complicated. Okay, so Jezz, I think the first thing to say is that the ruling bodies, the RNA and the USGA, are not trying to make the rules of golf any more complicated than they need to be. The issue that they face is what, Jezz?
Well, the issue they face is that golf is played on a large arena, 100 acres, maybe a golf course, wildly different terrain and landscape, trees, water, bushes, thick rough, short grass, all sorts of things you might come into contact with out on the golf course. So you're playing on this vast arena, whereas, as an example, a sport like tennis is played on a court that is certain dimensions wherever, and you hit the ball and it's either in or out. I know there's a lot more to tennis than that, but in essence, tennis is a lot more simple to govern.
Yes, and so within that wide open landscape where many different scenarios can pop up, you want to create an even playing field for everybody in the field. So if you find yourself in a situation like this, I guess this is a good starting point.
Yeah.
You're on a tee, and let's say you've just carved one out to the right-hand side.
Yes.
And you know it's thick rough out there. You may have lost your ball. You might not have lost your ball.
Yeah.
What happens?
Well, this is the problem, you see, because every time you say golf should just be a very simple hit it, find it, hit it again, something like that happens. You hit it, you don't find it. Now what do? How do you proceed with your round? Or you do find it, but it's physically unplayable. How do you carry on with your round? The rules have to present ways in which you can carry on to complete your round rather than your round just stopping because you've lost your ball.
Yeah, and the other thing I would add here is that there's a big difference between playing friendly golf and playing competition golf. Like Jezz and I, you and I play quite a lot of friendly golf together, and there are situations
not that
on
friendly,
the golf
to be honest.
There are situations on the golf course where it's like if it's a bit faster to do it in a certain way, or you're not really gaining any sort of advantage, we'll just proceed under a slightly different version of the rules, as it were. But if you're playing for your handicap, if you're playing in a competition, you can't just think about yourself. You have to think about the whole field and it being fair for everybody, don't you?
You do, and I guess the most common one people in friendlies will play is if they've lost one and nobody wants to walk 250 yards back, you'll just drop another one down. Yeah,
ball's just gone out of bounds, you can see it.
Yeah, but that is not a rule of golf, so you can't do that when you're playing in a competition where everybody is expected to be playing by the same set of rules. So we don't, we get all sorts of comments about, well, we don't do that in a friendly. Really, we're not too worried about what people do in friendlies because that's up to you, isn't it? That's up to you. It's when you're playing against 100 other people in the club medal and some people are playing by one rule and other people are playing by a different rule, that's when it really doesn't work. And that's when this book has to have a huge number of what-if scenarios to cover all the eventualities that might happen out on a golf course.
Yeah, and the last thing to say here, I think, is that rule book that Jezz is holding, they've actually worked incredibly hard, haven't they, Jezz, to try and make it as small, easy to understand as they possibly can for people, I think.
Yeah, I think there's a perception that the rule makers like it to be complicated, but they don't. And in the revisions for 2019, one of the primary objectives was to simplify the rules as much as possible while still governing all the various eventualities that might take place out in the course. So this player's edition is 50 pages shorter than the previous rulebook, which is here, and the number of rules has come down from 33 to 24. So there is a concerted effort on the part of the rule makers to streamline things as much as it's practical to do so.
Yes, and there are certain rules-related scenarios that pop up much more often than other rules-related scenarios, but the book has to cover just about everything to make sure that whatever happens on the golf course, there's something in there that tells you how to proceed and how not to proceed so that it's fair for everybody. Okay, Jezz, let's take a slightly closer look at one of those situations we mentioned earlier where the rules have to cover quite a few different things. So behind us here, we're just off the playing line on the 17th here at the London Club. We've got some really big bushy area. Imagine I've carved my tee shot in here. Now, the rules need to help me out.
Yes.
To ensure that I can carry on with my round of golf, don't they? If
They
I fit
do.
my ball in there.
As we said, you know, can you find it? Okay, you can find it, but it's not playable. What do you do? What if you can't find it? What do you do?
Yeah, so if I can find it, and the only rule available to me was to take 2 club lengths and drop away from it, well, that might not, in this scenario, that wouldn't take me clear of the bushes. I'd still be, as you said, I'd still be completely snookered, so I need more options.
You would be, and you know, if you can't physically retrieve the original ball, what do you do then? There has to be some option to allow you to carry on if it would tear your clothes to shreds to get to the ball.
Yes.
So all of these things have to be covered in the rule. And this is just one scenario that might happen fairly typically out on a golf course. So we have the unplayable ball options that give you 3 options in that scenario, and you don't have to retrieve the original ball. You can drop within 2 club lengths, you can go back online, or you can go back to where you last played from.
Exactly, and also the ruling bodies also need to try and keep play moving as much as possible, prevent slow play, so they also give you the option from the previous shot to play a provisional ball. So if you think that ball might be lost, you get the chance to play a provisional ball to help speed play up in this sort of scenario.
So all that's got to be covered in the rules. You know, the ball is lost, then what do you do? Well, the rules say that you have to go back and play from where you last played from, but they also say that to mitigate that being the potential outcome, you can play a provisional ball at that point when you think it might be lost, rather than having to walk a long way back. But then what are the rules governing that provisional ball? When can you hit it up until? When are you no longer allowed to play it? All of that has to be covered. And you could just say, oh, just do what you like and play another one here, there. But if you're playing in a competition and you're playing by that set of rules and someone else is playing by a different code, then you're not playing a level playing field, are you?
It's not fair. And so hopefully that just explains how just one very common scenario on the golf course needs to be covered by quite a few words in the rule book, by quite a few paragraphs that explain what you need to do in various different scenarios. Okay, so there you have it. That's just a few really simple but quite typical scenarios of explaining why the rules of golf seem to be so complex. And it's because ultimately, Jezz, if you look behind us in this shot, you'll see all the different things the rules of golf need to cover.
Yes, this is you know, quite a high point on the London Club. It's a vast acreage here. You can see bushes, you can see cart paths, you can see water, you can see buildings, you can see bunkers, you can see areas of rough. The rules have to allow you to proceed with your round of golf wherever you find yourself in amongst all that. Wherever your ball is lying, you have to have a way to allow you to continue with your round.
And that means that ultimately you're never going to be able to write them all on the back of a scorecard. They have to be more complex, they have to cover more things in order to make the game as fair as possible. And as we said at the start, Jezz, there's a difference between playing friendlies and playing in competitions. But if you are playing in competitions, then having a basic understanding for this stuff is a really good idea, isn't it?
It is, and you know, play as it lies. You might play a round of golf where you don't need to look at the rule book at all.
Every now and again it happens.
You just play it as it lies the whole way around, but the rule book has to cover all the times when you just simply can't play it as it lies.
Yes.
How many penalty shots is it? Where do you drop it? Why do you drop it there? How far back can you? All these things have to be covered because you can't always play the ball as it lies.
So there you have it. Please do leave some comments below. What do you think about the rules of golf? We'd be interested to hear your thoughts. And if you haven't done already, please do hit the subscribe button to make sure that you don't miss any of our videos. But that's it for now. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.